I feel like even engineers, I'm not gonna say are more important than artists, but I feel like they're probably the most overlooked in the whole process.
Definitely unsung heroes for sure.
They're the most overlooked in the whole process. I think beat makers obviously get more love than actual engineers. But if you ever recorded before, if you ever recorded anybody before, I think engineers probably have the hardest part of the job. I mean, because a beat maker, he can make that in his room like unbothered and send it off. But the engineer
Not
has to,
even mixed,
yeah,
Yeah.
not
not
nothing.
mastered.
Make that shit in like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, but the engineer actually has to make it all come together and make sense.
Yeah.
And then on top of revision after revision after revision. But that's the
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit more of a science to it for most people who are, sound engineering. Because then you have, I mean, there's people who are artists and they utilize a lot of music theory, but you know, if you're a sound engineer and you're doing a good job, you have to do it in at least a proper way. Like I know that there's a lot of rule bending when it comes to mixing and stuff, but there's a general idea of what you want to do.
As long as it sounds good, it don't matter.
sound leveling. That's pretty much.
As long as it sounds
That's
good, it
90%
don't
of
matter.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It
it's
can
like-
be low, it can be medium, it can be high. As long as it sounds good, it's not distorted. It's fine.
There you good.
If it sounds too low, turn your speakers or your headphones up. If it sounds too low, then you might have to redo something possibly, unless you wanted to sound that low for a reason. Because some engineers and like to do stuff like that just to be that's their thing, or maybe the artist wants to concept a project of. Well, it's not, because I even heard J. Cole in some of his old interviews or some of his engineers talk about how he didn't always turn his tracks all the way up. I don't know if he still does that now, but at the time, before around the Forest Hill Drive era, I heard that he doesn't put his tracks up past that lux level.
Why? Is that? I mean, because I've seen a lot of things, specifically on TikTok. Like the producer community is huge on there, and a lot of people have said the same thing that you just said. Like, as long as it sounds good, it can be as loud as as you want it, like on the program. Like it may not look proper, but if it sounds good, then it's okay.
Because of the loudness wars that started to happen after a certain point. Because when you hear old songs, some of them sound great, but some of them sound real low, and some are mixed
Facts.
bad and such. Because at the time, the equipment and the engineers didn't know or didn't have process, and at the time, the loudness level wasn't high because their ears were different. The tuning was even different at that time.
Everything is mixed like much brighter now.
Yeah, that's true. A lot more clarity.
It's much brighter.
But there's a few albums that they use as benchmarks, as like a Steely Dan album. I know of. I don't know if you know the band Steely Dan. They're back in like the '70s. And then there's like what's another good one? Oh, Daft Punk has another like perfectly mixed album, or mastered, I guess you could say. To where it just like, even though it was made in the '80s or '90s, it still sounds good by today's standards.
Even listening to the Chronic and Doggy Style, they still sound good.
I would agree.
So as long as you know what you're doing and you found your style, you're gonna be alright as an engineer, producer, artist. It just takes time, just like anything else.